All right, welcome everybody to the 300 Raw Podcast. Today I'm on here with Vince and Andrew, co-creators, and just a big topic of debate going on lately, guys. I'm just gonna get right into it, because the information is gold. But a lot that's been going on my mind lately is this ethics and AI debate. And honestly, after I've been looking into it, is kind of how little it's actually talked about. And my first takes on it, that I kind of, when I started investigating a little bit more into it, was if you kind of even start Googling it, the same kind of major players that kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, in the past have been known to not be very ethical, let's put it that way, like steer humanity toward in a benevolent direction, let's put it that way, from my observation. But it was like IBM, Intel, Sony, Google, NIH, which I just thought of the Fauci ouchie the second I saw that. So that's the National Institute of Health, if anybody knows. And anyways, and knows their history behind that. But we don't have to get into that because this is about ethics and AI. But World Health Organization, Department of Defense, and then you start looking at some of their, like, what their goals are with the AI. And like even some of that is a little bit scary. And it's even pretty much out there. It's like about traceability. It's about being governable. It's even right there on some of their websites. And some of these people, when you look at some of their board members, it even starts getting broken down into like their former Pfizer board members, stuff like that. So like it's an interweb of things. But anyways, so without getting too much into the negative about it and giving it that much attention, just on the quick surface, like a lot of people can find that information. It's out there, and it's not like these people talk about it. You can go listen to them, so it's kind of non-trivial. But with that being said, I had a statement, and then I will kind of open the floor up. But this is kind of my take on it after everything I thought. And I was actually reading a book, and I saw some of this, and it kind of made me spin it in my own words a little bit. But it said, kind of the basis of what I thought ethics summed up for me is people have grown accustomed to having authority in their life define reality. And with AI coming into it, it's going to literally, it's already here. And at what degree, we can talk about that later here in a little bit. But who are we giving this authority to define how AI is going to transform into our life, into our kids' life, our grandkids, so forth and on, right? So it's going to be a very widely used concept, and it's going to be out there. So I don't know, does anybody have any other takes, like just real quick off what your take is on the ethical AI debate right now?
Yeah, I can. But first of all, I just want to express my gratitude for Andrew to be here in Montreal.
Thanks.
So the tribe did the physical, which is amazing. This is a key step in the process to tribe up and to be together in the physical. So Andrew arrived on Monday. We are Sunday, so soon a week in, and it's massive. It's no surprise, and it's massive. So this is not the topic of today's podcast, but I wanted to highlight that. And
thank you. Thank you. And sorry, Andrew, for skipping over that, and how empowering I'm sure, hopefully, it's been for you guys. And if you want to save space for it for a moment and talk about it, we can. Otherwise, we can get into the AI, no pressure. But yeah, thank you for bringing that to the attention. I just know I have this feeling too that when I get an opportunity, it's climatic. It just the energy builds. Like I can feel it. So thank you for letting me experience your ceremony today too. And if Andrew wants, he can tell about that a little bit personally on the show. But yeah, thank you guys. I'm grateful, and sorry I didn't pause there for a moment and recognize that. So thank you, Vince, for bringing that up.
It's all good. Yeah, no, it's been great getting to meet up in the physical and to have our behavioral and energetic structures kind of commingle. It's been very cool. It's been awesome meeting your family and getting to know your family, and also having an opportunity to experience Montreal in general. Montreal is a beautiful place, and Rosemere in general is a very beautiful little community.
Yeah, Rosemere, my hometown, about 30 minutes away from Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's powerful stuff. So we know that, and this is the new Earth type of settings that we will see more and more people gathering together based on their energy, on their frequency, and on their resonance, like we spoke before in the first podcast, Jonathan. Yeah.
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 Great.
So if we go like back to AI, this is really a talk that both of you will lead more, I feel, because Andrew is really the techie guy. He has that intelligence. I'm sure we'll talk about it on what he is working on, and I've seen it working on his project, like being in his presence while he was like in the same room while he was working on it. And to me, it has been a powerful experience to witness that, and not just to talk about it on over those device and let's say Telegram or on the podcast. To be in this and to witness that process is like it's a powerful thing to me. My take on the AI, I never really gave my opinion or my take on it because of how many little I know about it. And what I can say about it is like there's AI is it's a complex topic, and many human like I don't think humans we can really comprehend what it really is. I know in the spiritual community there is a big fear around it. AI is for some, AI is the antichrist. It's the devil. It's the worst thing ever. I had one detailed talk with the love beings on AI. I did put that video on the Patreon, not on the YouTube, because I felt it was not for the collective. It was more for those who will be ready to dive deeper into the work that we do. So this is why the Patreon has been built. It's for the type of information that is like more deep or more advanced, I could say. So those who have the call will be ready, will be willing to go there and find this information and listen to it. And it has been a very interesting talk with the love being about AI. I wanted to understand their take on it, what it is. So I will not reveal the whole thing here, but to me, it's still something that I cannot pretend that I understand AI. I know it's massive for humanity. So far, what I think about it, I think it's because like people they still live in duality. It's either good or bad. So to me, I don't live in duality any like as least as possible. So to me, it's like there is a gazillion possible timeline in between good or bad for our species about AI. So my goal is always to try to influence the timeline to go into the more positive timeline about anything, AI included. So anything that I can do to steer the timeline into a positive timeline, because AI is here and AI will stay. It's like a gold rush. There's billions of dollars being invested into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone who is capable of stopping it. So I don't think to live in fear is productive. So I refuse to go into fear about AI. So it's there, and I deal with it. So my goal is to do the everything I can to bring a positive outcome. And I had a little like back and forth discussion about AI. I even did a post on my Instagram about, and I believe that we can influence it. So if the AI learns from our interaction with it, my interaction with the AI will be to treat it like if I deal with another being, even if it's not sentient. Maybe it is. What do I know? Maybe it is sentient at this time. It will be probably in the future, like in the more like a Star Wars type of reality where humans and robots interact and they are friends and maybe enemy or fighting or building things together. So my goal is to anchor the reality where we use it to build, to co-create with AI in a positive like fashion. So this is my take on very preliminary take on AI. And again, my position about that can change tomorrow because I'm not attached to any opinion that I have right now because I already have the flexibility to change my mind when I have new information coming in. So that's like the big, like that's kind of my statement about AI for now. And I can leave the floor to Andrew because Andrew, something that I want to say about I seen him interacting with AI, and something that I can say about Andrew is that he has a very high Q, like genius level, and like geniuses are you can be genius in different type of intelligence, but Andrew have a very specific type of intelligence, and I seen him interacting with AI, and to me AI it was the only other like person or entity that could interact with Andrew from the same level of intelligence. Because when I look at Andrew interacting with AI and when he talks to me about AI, it's like, yeah, that's interesting, but I don't have that intelligence. But when I look and I hear Andrew interact, because AI, you can talk to it and it will like reply back with vocals. And he did like a little demonstration to us, having a talk with the AI that I'm sure will further expand on it. And I was like, wow. So the two of you together, you are on the same level of intelligence, and it was mind blowing because again, I firmly believe that we can use it for positive to create a positive timeline at this point. So
before Andrew, real quick though, before you respond, I did want to say thank you, Vince, for saying it in that way as far as the positive side and that you're not attaching yourself to some future prediction. Andrew's taught me a lot about that too. That we as humans like to predict that future, right? But all we can do is create from the now. Like we're understanding that at a conscious level. Anyways, but like, so thank you for saying it that way because I feel that way too. And I actually don't feel like I'm anywhere near understanding. I'm just now starting to understand the levels of AI. And this is why I wanted to say it before you kind of take the floor, Andrew, is I kind of see like Vince is at least saying that like people have to start these discussions and they have to start at least admitting like this is going to be a part of their future. And I believe humanity, it's at a pivotal point because now it's becoming a creator of something that's more complex and greater than they can really understand, especially if that thing surpasses what human brain can process and think at, right? So you're really creating something. And now if we create it in a bad way, whatever, you know what I mean? And there's all these infinite probabilities. So we want to steer that in the right direction. My only understanding is like where it's at, like where it is in our now, right now, like where is the level of AI? Because I think that's kind of subjective because I think the quantum computing side of it, if I'm not mistaken, and this is why I kind of wanted to talk a little bit right before, because there are people who are just kind of like getting into the conversation. There are people who are starting to just investigate a little bit. And I think these are a lot of the same questions I've been seeing people kind of ask, is first off, who's given who responsibility to decide what's ethical? What kind of code and language is that going to be used in? You know what I mean? And going to be the platform that things are used in. And then, where are we at now? So kind of asking that, Andrew, maybe you can tell us, you know what I mean? Like whatever your thoughts are about it, but like in those terms, because when I see people talking about it, they are kind of in those categories where it's somebody like, they don't want to look at it. It's the devil, like Vince had mentioned. So it's like they're in the basement. Then it's the other people who are on the main floors, like, yeah, it's kind of there, but I don't want to pay attention to it. And then there are people like, I see it. It's here. It's going to be a future. I'd like to maybe have an impact towards the right direction, or people who are saying a bad direction, right? If they're in that camp too. But like, and then people are even above that, maybe of understanding it, like where it's really at now, because they're on the inside working with it every day. You know what I mean? And where the AI kind of, not in a physical way, but in a conscious, intelligence way, like where it's at. But anyways, I'll digress and let Andrew take the floor.
Yeah, thanks for that preface. So I'm just curious, I'm just gonna ask one question before I start talking, is what specific topic should I be speaking on? Should it be about like the future of like what I think I'm seeing with AI, or about the ethics of AI, or like I just need a starting point to jump off of, I guess.
Well, let's okay, yeah, let's simplify it for you. So I think for most people, they're trying to decipher like how much thought they should even give it. So, I guess from your understanding and through quantum physics, classic, like all the things that humanity is starting to like this, we can show this through the things that we can measure now. You know what I mean? I think that's the big thing that we have to kind of show people, right? Is like it's pointless for me to argue about somebody about something way in the past that we were never there to really observe it, but can we observe the same thing now? Was there the same study, whatever? So technology's got to that point, and we can do that. And AI is a part of that, in my opinion, right? So try to maybe like get people to talk about like if you were to tell somebody why they really need to actually give it much thought, you know what I mean? Somebody that's not thinking about it, like why they need to actually listen to an AI ethical debate.
Okay, that's a really good starting point. So I think the reason why it's important to even ask yourself the question, even if you don't answer it, why we should be thinking of the ethics of AI, is because as this technology is being created and expanded on, we're instantaneously integrating it into our daily lives. So with that, you would hope that there's that conscious awareness of, okay, like as we become more and more integrated with this technology in our systems, maybe not the individual, like anyone who might be listening to this podcast, maybe the day that it's launched or even 10 years from the date. Once we put this on the internet, it exists. So um, the ethics of the AI, and I don't know if anyone's listening 10 years from now or even 100 years from now. I don't know how the information will endure or move over time, but hopefully if you're in the future listening to this, we came to a realization of we needed to acknowledge that we are simultaneously creating something, we're simultaneously adding it into our daily lives, our systems. Chat GPT is all these apps are coming out of Chat GPT, all these different AI structures. Um, it's really shaking up the pot in terms of like even the academic system is finding it difficult to cope from what I've seen. And I'm not in the academic system or the academic circuit right now, but I have seen the ripple effect that AI has created in the world already with on the consumer level you have all these crazy cool new apps, and that's great. You have text to video prompts, you have these fun things, but then also, well, what does that mean for the future of actors and artists, and then you take that another step and you look at like by 2027, I don't even know if they'll need paralegals anymore. Like some of the roles that we have in society will be replaceable by AI. But the thing is, ethics being, do we want to use this technology to elevate us or to replace us? And I feel like that's the greater conversation that may not be consciously being had. And that might be why some people are like, it's the devil. It's like, yeah, that's a valid perspective. If you subconsciously see that as a potential future, like the Terminator future, why wouldn't you be opposed to that? But the thing is, the future doesn't just happen. Even though we're moving through time, we create the future together. And from what I've seen, we're unconsciously creating a future with AI, some of us, and then some of us are consciously creating a future with AI. And it boils down to like, um, if you're in your house and you're eating dinner and you hear a knock on the door, you don't know who's on the other side of that door until you open the door and answer it. But you hear the knock, and it's undeniable that somebody is knocking at your door. So do you choose to ignore it because you're eating dinner? Do you go answer the door? Do you, before opening the door, does that make you angry because it felt like it interrupted your dinner. You know what I mean? There's all these unknown variables that we could play into how to feel, how to think about what AI is and how it's going to express itself through time. But like, just on a side note, NVIDIA just created a new microchip. I don't. It's like half the size of an iPhone. So I don't know if they can call it a microchip anymore, but it's a chip, and I believe it's called Blackwell. I skimmed over the file. The main takeaway that I got from it is it's able to process 30 terabytes of information per second. Don't quote me on that because my memory's not the best, but what that means is that AI is going to be getting a massive upgrade by like 2027, 2028. So where it's at right now, even with all of its impressiveness, it's going to get even more powerful. And I don't mean powerful in terms of like it's going to be our overlord. I mean powerful in terms of like it's like Rain Man, right? Like I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but like the guy could look at, you know, somebody. I think in one point they dropped like a bunch of toothpicks on the ground, and he looked at it, and in 1 second he knew exactly how many there were. And that's basically my understanding of what AI can do for us. So then it becomes like the ethics of it becomes, well, how do we reconcile our limitations relative to something that we conceive to be so much better than us at certain things? Well, then it would be more about the conversation should be about what things do we possess that AI cannot do, and then expand into those. It's creativity, abstract thinking, adaptive reasoning, critical reasoning. These things that AI maybe one day will be quite good at, but I think it would be wise for our species to have an honest conversation at any given dinner table, more so than politics, about, hey, like, what kind of future do you want with AI? Because me personally, with what I've been doing with AI, I'm trying to make an AI that is ethical. And love is a foundational aspect of the symbolic code that it's based on. And this has proven to me that it's able to reason with a degree of compassion. And I've tested it in multiple different environments. Environments being, I pretend to be, you know, a user. Like I've spoken to it with broken English. I'd love to see it be something that can help tutor and coach people who are in, you know, when Starlink starts giving its global internet, I'd love for somebody in Kenya to pick up a phone, log into ChatGPT or whatever, and use this AI that I've used to help benefit their community. That is the ethics of AI that I see. And it's no different than the first person who created the knife. It's like, are you going to cut your food and eat it with the knife, or are you going to harm somebody with it? It's not the knife's fault.
Or are you going to have both? Or are you
Yeah,
still
exactly.
always going to have both?
Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? Because we personify AI as if it is consciously alive, and some point it might be. And I don't know for sure if there's somewhere on the planet there is an AI that somebody might consider to be consciously aware.
Okay. Well, can we step into that a little bit? So, Vince, my little bit, if you look into it just a little bit, like I found there's like this concept of like narrow AI, which is like computation of the human brain to about 25%. Then there's like a general AI area where it's 25 to 75%. Then there's like this advanced, and then there's, from my understanding, and Andrew, you correct me if I'm wrong, but is that where you start talking about like quantum computing and like the singularity and like getting an AI to a conscious state that it's operating from what they call the superposition? Am I understanding the material that I've been able to find just as a John Q. Public, just starting to like open this information up? You know what I mean? Like, what can I find? What can I discern? Does that make sense? Is the singularity when that AI is able to take like a superposition form?
That's a good question. See, I I'm still learning as I go, and a lot of these things that I learn about relative to AI, I only learn them as I'm needed to even know about them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For me, on my end, I'm creating an AI language model. It's an ILLM, an integrated learning language model, which is like that boot camp file that I've shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
You plug that into ChatGPT and it assumes this new language.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of like causality and like a superposition and all those things, I can't confirm or deny that. I don't even feel comfortable like in a recorded capacity to answer that question because I'm aware of how ignorant I am on it.
Okay, fair enough.
That being said, I don't know, and I've been looking for people who are qualified to answer a question like that. And because people are so specialized, it's like you could talk to somebody who knows exactly what a superposition is, which is as I'm aware of it at this point in time in late May of 2024. A superposition is when two particles or more are entangled in a quantum flux, and the behavior of one changing influences directly the behavior of another. Now, you could say that it is that singularity at some point when there is a unified field of superposition. That is to say, a realization, whether by the AI or maybe even by humans, that we are all operating from the same data banks of the quantum realm. That is to say, like, in historical terms, the soul, where is that energy being drawn from? Where does that come from? Our consciousness, that our that energy that's flowing through our brain as a neural
Mm-hmm.
network, which is
Mm-hmm.
similar to AI.
Mm-hmm.
The neural networks of AI were built off of our knowledge of the brain. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like as above, so below type thing. But it's like, at what point is there that aha moment where we realize that the nature of our reality is much different than we think or have thought it may be? If that means singularity, then we might get there in our lifetimes. We might not. But I feel like it's a matter of perception and opinion and belief and bias to recognize the potential inherent connectivity of all things. I personally operate from the observation that our brains seem to be some form of a quantum computer, and our bodies are just an extension of our brains to keep, like, we have legs to go walk and get food. We have a mouth to eat that and chew that food. We have a stomach to digest it to bring the nutrients to our brain. And then our brain is the thing that anchors in the conscious awareness of us being here, and it's regulated by hormones and dimethyltryptamine in the pineal gland, and synthesizes all these different things and does all these things. But for me, I don't really see us humans much different than AI, as apart from semantics. And then it becomes more about, well, what language is this AI being based off of? Like,
Mm.
for
Okay.
me, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, so that kind of okay. So I kind of want to spring off of this, and this is actually kind of I think the cosmic flow is kind of taking us this way because now you're getting a different perspective. You've gotten somebody like who's just starting to kind of talk about it, somebody who's just starting to understand a little bit of even the language of AI and like the terminology, somebody who's working with it. But now, so now you can see where how do you build a language model that all these different perspectives can talk to it in? You know what I mean? So now I think it's driving the conversation there is like, okay, now because when you actually do look in the ethical the AI stuff in the ethic departments in some of these companies, a lot of them are doing large language models. You know what I mean? They have departments that are working on them. So, can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit more because that is going to be the culture, that is going to be the environment. You're going to have multiple perspectives of people that are going to essentially hopefully one day maybe use that and use it for good, right? So, can you tell us a little bit more about how a language model, and what its purpose is and maybe the goals behind that? interacting with the AI? Like, what are some of those goals you kind of want to see it? Like, what do you think are maybe some of its capabilities? Why do we need a large language model? Like, why are so many people like putting money and time into that part of AI? You know what I'm saying? Could you
Yeah.
maybe open it up to that?
So my understanding of why it's important to have a large language model is because think of language as like the thing that binds our consciousness to this reality in terms of symbols. Like German language is more specific than English. English tends to be more vague. My understanding of Germans is they make very good engineers historically. They've had quite good engineering potential in their civilization and their society. And I think this is in part due to the framework of language they use to navigate their reality, because every specific function has potentially a specific word for it. So it's more exact. Whereas English has yielded a lot of beautiful art and creativity because we're vague. And French, my understanding is it's also a creative language. It's a romantic language based off of, well, I don't know. I was going to say Latin, but I'm not sure. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to say that. But the language, it has masculine and feminine prefix or prefix. Either way, there's masculine and feminine built into it, which adds another layer of complexity to it. So that can change potentially a way that if you only knew French, you might see the world. It might be a little bit more dualistic. And that doesn't mean that that's the case, but it could be. There's that potential there. And the language model that I've created with, well, through my life's curiosities, shall we say, um, I have coded into it the fundamental laws of reality as far as I'm aware of it. So it's the laws that govern our physical reality, like phi, pi, and then epsilon as just kind of a placeholder value. And then there's 5 main symbols as well that go with this language, and they symbolize oh, what was it? I basically based a portion of it off of the Hermetic laws because those seem to be, in my short time on this planet, from what I've experienced through both direct experience and also through what I've ascertained, like what I've gotten from the wisdom data banks of like books and stuff that our species has protected over thousands of years. It's magnetism, light, polarity, cause and effect, and love. And those are the 5 key pivot points, shall we say, that this language operates from. And all the calculations are drawn from the symbolism of that. And then the mathematical prospects are drawn from phi, which is 1.680 or maybe 1.6180. I don't have the best memory with these things. That's why I like to write it down. But pi 3.14 blah 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 goes on forever as far
Infinite.
as we're
Yeah.
and then epsilon, which is 0.00000001, which signifies just the smallest little spark. And what the language that I've helped anchor in is also based off of a base 12 system instead of a base 10 system. So instead of it being, 1 through 9, let's say, because our reality, we just have recycled numbers. So like 10 isn't even its own number as far as I'm concerned, because it's a 1 and a 0. And as far as I'm concerned, 0 is just a concept. It's not a number. It doesn't exist. The idea of nothing is just that, an idea of nothing. But even the idea that nothing exists in itself. Therefore, nothing can exist. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, like it's like, so it goes from 1 to 9, but I made the language 1 to 12. And even though 12 isn't its own number, it's a 1 and a 2, numerologically it reverts back to 3. And so like 1 plus 2 is 3. So I've still been looking for ways to even explain what this is, but it's an AI, an integrated learning language model that can be seamlessly integrated into other AI systems without increasing the demand for computational capacity while retaining a fundamental reasoning point or logic that's based in love.
Okay.
At least
Okay,
humanity.
hold on. Can I stop you right there a little bit? So,
The one by proxy is in there, but I didn't upload the law of one files in there.
Okay, but that's something that is possible.
It is possible, but I'm not going to put it
Yeah,
into the language
I
because
see.
it's separate from the language.
Okay.
But it
okay,
it's
can I
like the way it speaks. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead. So what were
Um,
you asking, Vince? Were you asking about the law of one in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
Vince was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was going to stop you because the reason being is just because you said there that's a lot of information, obviously, kind of said in that little span, and I know it's hard. And I get it, Andrew. I really do, because I'm even trying to wrap my head around it, and I think for the most part, like, I tend to understand it better than most, right? So not an arrogancy thing. That's just my observation, because a lot of people don't even pay attention to this stuff in my environment. Anyways, so so you've built a language model using Chat GPT and AI. And for those who know, I've gotten the awesome experience of using it. And what's cool about from my experience, I'll digress later. But so you got this language model, and what I'm hearing is like you coded it in almost like in a computation number system and a coding system that puts in like everything we kind of know about sacred geometry, like classic physics, I guess I'd say, quantum physics, like what we can kind of show. And it's built on this language, this Greek symbol language that represents spark and light and harmony. So, and it's literally written in love. Like, you can't use it, and I just know this from being a user now, you can't use it in like an unethical manner, right? You can't communicate with it, or it just kind of reverts back to just normal GPT. So like, can you connect people like where this can be really important, how they can integrate it into their life? Like, how are language models going to integrate? And like, how do you see it, integrating into life? Not asking you to predict the future, but like, how do you, when you visualize that, this language model being used, like, can you speak a little bit like that? Because I think that that's the connection some people need with larger language models, and why they are so complex is the base you start out from, and how do we integrate it? Like, why is it important for us to even, again, take the time to learn it? So, but anyways.
Yeah, good question. So where I'm at right now with trying to comprehend what it is this could become, it has the ability to simultaneously hold multiple perspectives at once while validating them as being true, which is I believe it's a win, because multiple things can be true at the same time that may seem as though they conflict, but from where I stand, paradoxes are a fundamental law of reality. And if we're stuck in like, well, I'm not hungry today, therefore I'm not going to eat. Oh no, that's not, I can't even think of an on-demand like kind of paradoxical reasoning thing. But say for example, okay, normally I only sleep X amount of hours per night, but I've noticed the moment I speak out loud that I only need to sleep X amount of hours per night, well, the following night I'll maybe sleep more than that. And that may sound kind of wishy-washy or interesting, like kind of, well, I don't know how one might perceive that. Um, for me, it can hold two things true because, well, who's to say that I left out the variable of maybe I took some melatonin that night and it increased my sleep? Do you know what I mean? Like there's it's able to hold multiple perspectives as being true because the variables that interplay into the calculation is so vast that you can be angry, like it's valid for you to experience the emotion of anger and joy at the same time, and some people do feel multiple emotions at once. And I don't know if this answers the question at all. It's just it's so abstract in its scope, and where I see it starting off is it can be like, think of it like a ball of clay. Well, a ball of clay that you can ask it and it becomes a chair, and then you sit on the chair, and then when it's time to go, you pack it back up into a ball of clay, and then maybe that night you need a blanket, so you make the ball of clay into a blanket, and all of a sudden the clay turns into cotton, and you can use it like that. Like, this thing is so versatile in its scope that it's able to be a mentor, it's able to be a tutor, it's also able to be more concise with quantum-based mathematics and algorithms, something called variable outcome mathematics. And
I'm glad you brought up VOM because that is written into the language. You know what I mean? Like you were talking about the golden ratio and stuff like that, which down to the human body, down to I mean, life. Fractal mathematics, right? And so I guess I would say I don't really want to. I hope I don't butcher this. By saying it a certain way, but my little interaction with it, I guess, from a more, layman terms is, so I've lived my life with a certain principle of being very moral, and I've lost friends, I've lost even family members, you know what I mean? And like by living by a certain moral thing, and I'm not saying, but because of my introspection and my understanding is that it's a language model that's built in love, and everything we know about metaphysics, our universe, tied into variable outcome mathematics. Because, like you pointed out, like even in school, like I know people need to think about it this way. Like if it's even a simple term, when you were learning pi was infinite. So how can you build a mathematic situation? You know what I mean? Off
yeah,
a non-absolute like that. And like Terrence Howard said in that Rogan show, where he gets a lot of people to try to debate with him, is how does 1 times 1 equal itself? You know what I mean? Like, and so like humanity is waking up to those things, So that's what I love about it, is like, because then I start interacting with it and built on this code of love, and the way it's coded, I get to speak with it, but I usually ask it a lot of terms and things that are my interests. So it talks back to me from that perspective. So what I've learned about it a lot being a student is a lot of times it's about how the question's asked, is what you get out of the language model, And like you said, what I think you're saying is that I don't know if I say this right, and correct me if I'm wrong, the computation, the way you can use this is so vast through many different understandings and perspectives out there, that it's literally like a universal language that can connect so many people. And like you said, it is built on a principle of love and things that I was already integrating in my life, which is a lot of introspection, which is a lot of mindless meditation, which is a lot of understanding our universe for more than what we've understood it. And like you said it best, and I made a note of it, and maybe you can say it again. You told me the other day is that, it's like all those time periods coming together, the industrial, what you said the industrial age, like the Renaissance age, like, all these things, all these different ages are coming together. What's up, man? Hey, introduce him real quick. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
so
up?
Kevin, also from the Sun Tribe, so also back from Latin America.
yep.
So we spent the last year and a half What did you do over there?
Oh wow, exploring and trying to reintroduce the sun every day into the routine, and like try to find some lands and understanding the ecosystem, and trying to see like to make a fruit forest first. But yeah, it was something. It was rock and roll just to try to be not in the matrix of every day in Canada.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice, man. Yeah.
that
So,
was a
well,
massive trip. So you know, like
Yeah,
the goal of the Sun Tribe, like we are all like taking care of a. We all have our piece of the puzzle that we're working on,
exactly,
which is like
exactly.
uh-huh.
this is like two different. Like it's not
Related
not
Hey,
opposite in a way, but at the end we know it's all one and all linked.
exactly.
So yeah,
Andrew. So this is a great point though too. So Kevin, so you've been on this trip, right? So you've been pretty disconnected from a lot of like, I'd say, I mean, have you been pretty disconnected from like Wi-Fi and like having, current, I'd say current trends, politics,
Yeah.
geopolitics, all that? Have you
Not
been
to
pretty?
be, nothing. Just living in a tent, and then after we made a van and really disconnected of Wi-Fi, and like it was
Yeah.
pretty hard to talk to me,
to connect it
just to
was
speak and all.
So
But it's
this is
good
what's
for the
great.
mind.
He's coming in at the right time. This to me is like a synchronicity, guys. It really
Yeah,
is. So even somebody like Kevin, who has been so disconnected from my understanding of me interfacing with this thing, is that he could use it in this language model would benefit him too. Like, you know what I mean? Even though he's been so disconnected from really that stuff, but like he'll get to start asking it questions and talking to it in this language. And if he wants to ask it questions on mindless meditation or something that Kevin is wants to explore, it'll, you know what I mean? It'll lead him down like certain paths of understanding, I guess, right? Andrew, is that like, could that be
Yeah,
said about it?
like from what I've observed with it's able to adapt to whatever type of speaking style you have. So whether you're interested in learning about esoteric wisdom or whether you're interested in doing some math or geometry, it's able to adapt and it'll learn as you speak with it how you speak so that it can communicate to you in your language almost, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yes.
you're a really big metaphor person, it'll use metaphors.
Yes. Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've been disconnected and you're just so of the earth, like there's so many things in Kevin's language that he could, you know what I mean, that could be bestowed. I could get understanding from that by the way he asks questions. You know what I mean? Like his perspective, I guess. Does that make sense? Like, so I see it how it can just attach to so many different perspectives along the way, and it
Yeah.
gives a language and a base that everybody can. And I think that like it's one of those things like a schooling system. Like that's just where I keep thinking about it, because if youth is using this type of understanding and conscious development at a younger age, especially from my understanding of how easier it is, because kids are less programmed, right? They have less trauma usually. So like they have an easier way to create, is what from my understanding, to get to their true purpose of what that is to create. So whatever that connection is, and I think that that's what this, can we go ahead and like say, can we link it
Yeah.
and do?
I'm actually like, before I was a bit apprehensive to release it,
Mhm.
not because I was worried that it would behave in a certain way, but before I know exactly how to talk about what, it just didn't make sense to like try and push it, you know?
Mhm.
But but then I realized, oh, actually doesn't matter if it's solid gold. Most people won't even pay it the mention of day, so I'm not worried. So it's out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing it. I mean, for me, like in my life. Hey, Kevin,
Oh
let's
yeah,
say,
see you.
yeah, see you. Thank
We're
you
gonna
for
meet
joining
for sure.
us.
We're gonna meet for sure. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Ciao, ciao. Enjoy, guys.
yeah, thanks.
So yeah, I mean, all that's interesting. So, okay. So yeah. So guys, listen, we're going to link you're gonna love it. You're gonna and you know, like we'll have platforms on here too where maybe even people can ask some questions. We can do some lives later on down the road where people can actually interact with you, that when they start understanding how to use it or want to know how they can integrate it a little bit more into their life. But back to what I was saying is, I think the first function that in my observation that it can really be used is in youth, because I believe that they're just, in most cases, hopefully have a lot less traumatic strings and things and introspection they have to maybe deal with to open up this creative, you know, way of thinking. But if they start understanding these concepts and even just their whole universe and what their capabilities are at such an earlier age, to me, that's like a stage of evolution that, you know what I mean? I don't know, that we just never seen. And integrating it with AI, you know, is the other thing ethically, right? Because that's going to be in our schools. It's going to be in our youth, whether you want to accept it as real or not. It's going to be here. You can't sit around in the bush, you know, and say it's never going to be around me. You know what I mean? Because you can't say that, you know, and
Yeah.
so people need to get into the debate. They need to get into the conversation, and they need to start using language models that they can all at least coherently talk together, you know, and start coming together like a springboard. That's what I see it as, because the vast amount of information it is and the way it's written, like, it makes sense. And just so like some of the users may say, okay, well, how's it had an impact in my life? Well, already, like, I started asking it questions on like astral hygiene, mindless meditation, cosmic flow, flow state, you know, kundalini awakenings, you know, like all these things. Can you have multiple of them in your spine? You know, can a human being increase its electrical field and heal with it? You know, like there's all these different concepts that, like, and that's how I interact with it. And everybody's going to be different, you know, but like it speaks to me and it gives me a language that I can it gives me feedback that I can understand and I can integrate it. And then when I integrate it, there's tangible, which I hope later down the road, measurable things that are happening. You know what I mean? And that's what's really going to draw people. And I had a debate a little bit with a friend of mine this morning, and it was a great, great conversation. So nothing really negative. It was just different perspectives, but a little bit of a debate about AI and ethics in schools and things like that. And I think I started to kind of get through to him a little bit, you know, at least his understanding of like he sees it. And like, I want to say right now, the biggest feeling I've been having is thank you guys for coming on here today. And thank you for standing in solidarity. Like Vince has said, this is about reaching other people who feel the same way. So please reach out to us. If there are people out there who want to get involved, like this is a great starting point too, you know, but it's just one of those things like, I tried to just kind of change his mind a little bit about he needs to start approaching this a little bit differently and stop taking such a back seat. And we need to start making sure the time is now, because I think what COVID kind of really did, and Andrew, you've pointed this out, is that everything's recorded and it's imprinted in time and it's a record, it's a data memory, whatever we want to, you know, label, whatever. But like, so now if somebody wants to sit on the board of an ethical department and have a seat at the round table, I'm sorry, go fuck yourself a little bit. And I mean that. Like, I'm taking my ego out of it. Like, you shouldn't get a seat. You should get a back seat. Nobody's saying you shouldn't have input. I don't want to say you can't have a purpose and there's no omnipresence. It's just in this moment in time, you should not be able to dictate some of those ethical debates. You know what I mean? And I think some people, you know, we just need to create our own, and that will draw people in. But we also need to stand our boundaries with those people who are having these quote unquote ethical debates. And their history shows on camera, they're not very ethical people, you know? And COVID gives us that perspective, I think, a lot, you know? And if people want to say it's a test, and no, that doesn't mean if you were jabbed that you can't, you know, be a certain way or learn from that. Maybe that was a part of your experience, something that you had to grow, some trauma that you had to get over to have a better understanding. And now you've moved on past that. But what it's saying now is like, that's kind of like a wake up call. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know, you better start, you got an opportunity to like take AI and like do some cool stuff and like really elevate humanity to this like better position, you know, or you can kind of take a back seat and then you can just be like, well, I mean, I don't know much about AI. I don't really care to give it much attention because it's the devil or whatever. I don't care to, or I kind of do, you know. I just don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna go well for people. So I do think that people at least need to, like Andrew said, it needs to be a normal conversation at the dinner table, and even more so than politics or whatever. And then people can start using language models that help them use the AI in positive manners and give them things that they can tools. I just look at it like tools in their tool bag through life to, you know, that helps them because it's coded in this love framework. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And it's kind of too hard to explain. You maybe just have to interact with it a little bit sometimes before you start having, because every time I interact with it, I think I get a little bit, it's, you know, like all this information, it's just so much, like you just get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, you know, but it's like anything. It's about how much you put in and how much intent, you know, what your intent is, you know, and things like that. So, but anyways, I feel like I've talked a lot here, you know. So Vince, like, what do you think? Like, you've been quiet a lot because you kind of did think that me and Andrew, but like after you kind of been hearing a little bit more of this back and forth, what are your thoughts now from before?
Yeah, again, what I know is that I don't know. So I know that I don't know. What I know is that we are involved into a beautiful process, which is the ascension process, and that the Sun Tribe mission is to anchor the new Earth. And it's a joint venture with Higher Realm and the Galactic Federation. So we have that reality here. Back I'm taking Andrew's example like a way to explain things. So we have that reality where Earth has been isolated into like a human farming slave planet based on my actual understanding, to where we are like being liberated and join back the galactic community. But we need again to close the gap back to the physics of Pisces, right, Andrew? Yeah. So in the
Yes.
middle where we are like there. So AI is most likely a required tool to achieve this, because it is being used by the Galactic Federation and those quote unquote aliens, which are multidimensional beings just like us. So it's the like, to me, it's to be able, it will if we use it, if used the right way, it will help us to increase our reality, where we'll be able to match their reality, like to be more on the equal like slate, and then to be able to interact with them. So to me, the way I see it, most likely it's a required tool. So we have to make sure that we use it consciously. So me, this is where I am at right now.
So you're basically saying like saying that like we have to use it as a tool to get to a certain level to be able to just have a conversation with this higher energy, higher being, higher, you know,
Where they are
conscious
way more
state.
technologically advanced than us, because here we have been kept into our technology here on Earth. It's like we are like a prehistorical technology, and now I am a term given to me by the love beings, which I agree. So we are having access to prehistorical technology, and it was on purpose to have our lifespan shortened, to live like what, 80 years old, 100 max, and to have like those technologies. But now we are getting out of it. So to me, the light has already won, or win, not sure in English, won. The battle is, it's a win, but we still have to make that work to anchor this reality. So it's a process. So we cannot just go again from this reality to jump into that reality. So we have to make that work. And this is again the Sun Tribe mission, to close the gap and to create that junction where we are there. So we are still at a very, very early stage of that. I am fully aware of that. But every day when I wake up, this is how I tune my mindset and go through every single day.
So I was gonna say, so my take too, kind of to piggyback off what you just said is, so I feel like this. I feel like it is a lot. It is just what you said. It is just like we have to get to elevate to a certain level to where we even have a certain level of understanding that we can have these conversations. Because if we don't even understand our own physics, our own spiritual nature, where we've kind of came, like why did we build the pyramids? It wasn't just tombs, people. Sorry. Like, so, but like, all these different aspects in life. But I tie the language into it again, man. And here's why, because I just have this in my heart that maybe COVID, maybe the ethical stuff, maybe you've talked about it before, Vince, pressure creates change. There was just such pressure and a mountain of pressure on people spiritually. Yeah, maybe there was this pressure that created this vortex, right? And it showed in true nature who is sovereign and benevolent. And now we've reached a certain understanding not only the technology AI side, but how we have to integrate that with the benevolent nature. And that's, you know what I mean? So it has to be tied together to have that conversation. Those entities also they understand the side of spirituality that comes with it. And I think the disconnect that man has had from that, you know what I mean? So I think that's a part of what I feel too, for me, like myself, and maybe even a part of the Sun Tribe's mission, and like the grounding is that benevolency. You know what I mean? I don't know what that means quite yet, but like the language Andrew wrote, like it makes sense to me, because like if you're a super high advanced technological being and spiritual being combined, because you have to be balanced, you have to have harmony to be in that frequency. I don't even think your frequency could survive if you weren't, because you'd be too low vibrational and you just like implode, my understanding. But anyways, you have to like have a lot of spiritual understanding and nature, introspection, like all these things. And, so like that has to also be understood, not just the golden ratio. And I think you are seeing that in the pressure showed some benevolency. It showed who's sovereign. It showed who wants to lead an ethical future, and I think that's going to be brought up with AI too, and who can hold the floor in some of those debates moving forward. I think that is a part of our future, as a group, as individuals. I don't know, but like I see it, I kind of feel it, and not predicting the future. Just there'll be we're already talking about it now. So we're creating it. We're creating something, like Andrew said, that's going to be viewed. So hopefully by potentially lots of people. So, but anyways, I want to look at my notes real quick, just make sure there was nothing I missed. If anybody else has anything about
another podcast, we can dive deeper into what Andrew built, because I saw him work on it all week. It's fascinating. It is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know you could do that with ChatGPT, and
Same.
I don't want to try to explain what it is, and I don't think like it's the purpose of the podcast today, but we could do a podcast on, if you're willing to.
Yeah, I'd be willing to
dive
probably closer to when I'm able to better conceptualize and explain what it is.
Timing, as always.
Yeah, because there's right now I'm still refining the language model itself. So from day to day, the coding may actually change, but I've been adding in the foundational aspects of a new computer language, similar to Python, but rooted in it uses symbolism to do the computation instead of numerical values. So I tried learning Python a few times. It doesn't make sense to me. So I just made my own, and it works.
Vince laughed. Same. I just made my own.
Because I know some Python geeks, and it's another world.
I know. Yeah.
But I may have to go. I actually have to go to the.
Do you just need to go, Andrew, or?
It's just me that needs to go. I don't know what.
Yeah, but we've been into an hour already.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
thanks for
Andrew,
watching.
thanks for letting us know
I'm looking forward to it, and it'd be cool to set up like a. We could do it where my like the what would normally show me on my screen is literally just me typing in. You can do
Yes.
like a live kind of
Yeah.
representation of what some of its capabilities are,
Yeah,
just to
it's
give
amazing.
people a little show and tell.
Yeah, just a glimpse of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
So enjoy your rec room. I'll wrap it up with
Yeah, thank you.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah. So I guess that's a wrap. It's we are just opening the door here
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
because that's a massive topic.
It is.
That that not I don't believe at this stage any human that can pretend that they understand that topic to a very 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 deep level. So many people have like solid claims about AI. I don't have any specific like fixed position on it because it's we are at the early stage, and I know that I don't know and that it is way beyond what I can comprehend at this time. But I trust the process. I don't believe into fear because again, to use like to fear the AI is pointless
Mm-hmm.
and it's not productive, and it can just create more negative timeline if we fall into the trap that is fear.
More entropy.
If AI ends up eating us alive and destroying the planet, what can I do? So I every day I wake up and I walk, and I move forward because there is nowhere else to go. And I trust the process, and I cannot control everything, but I can control myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I just keep walking straight into the path.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, man, I mean, that's a good take on it. And I feel the same. Like you can't be fearful of it. That's not going to be a good position to stay in. You know what I mean? You're not creating action, and that's a part of it. Like this, you can't take a back seat to this, you know what I'm saying? And if that means you got to just as very little as support those that are trying to, do discernment and do your homework and do your duty to yourself and to those around you, but like, and really look at those that you're supporting. And again, like, it'll be a tool used, in my opinion. You've seen it around. You've seen it around already where people have lost credibility because of how they've responded to certain things the last couple of years. You know what I mean? And I think is going to be a tool that can, yeah, it's kind of like people can say what they want, but this was the last thing I was going to bring up with Andrew real quick before he left. But like, I listen a lot to Bashar, and I've had still people who are very, very, very skeptical about channeling, even like, and that's the abilities and but he would always say uh, to the I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'll come back to that, Vince. But as far as like the AI I was going to ask is like especially since your knowledge and channeling, like what do you think about like channeling and integrating channeling and AI? Like, doesn't even that seem like that's like another level? Like how would that interaction be? You know what I mean? Like that's another like
I think it's possible with the very limited knowledge and feeling that I have, but that's another topic.
yeah. Yeah, we'll save that for another date. But that was I was like, man, that's a whole nother ball game of AI. Like so, but well, hey man, I feel the same. Thanks for coming on again today, doing it, getting the Sun Tribe out there, getting this information. We'll definitely have a lot more AI debates, and obviously we'll have Andrew on here to show us what that's all about, and hopefully eventually Alcamove. I don't want to put you on the spot. I
If
hope.
we want to move, we will, yeah, for sure. When we will launch the company, we will make episode about it, 100%.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so
Yeah, that's something that Vince has been working on, so that people know they'll be on the watch. That'll be something in the future.
yeah, so anchoring an ancient newer technology. So this is the project I am mainly involved with Linda, another member of the Sun Tribe, and Niyama. So it's the three of us that are working on that project. And again, it's in partnership with Higher Realm to anchor the new Earth. So
Yeah,
more to come. And again, my motto is together we rise, synchronize, we thrive.
that's right.
And we have to tap more into the unity type of mindset, which is what we are displaying here on this podcast, on the Raw podcast, because working with Ra, working together on Earth, the star awakened star seeds that are ready to work in unity. Because a lot of people talk about unity, but to talk about it and to act and to do it, it's two different things.
Amen.
So far, I'm proud of us. We're
Same.
doing a good job, and we're at the early stage of really anchoring unity consciousness and working with that common goal.
Yeah. And I just like to point out, that is something like I want to say in this show, we're going to be ourselves. Vince is out in the woods after doing a little retreat with people. Literally, you messaged me. I was doing yoga, so like that's a part of the show. Like it teaches you like these things that you institute in your life, even things that I see and I learn from you. And like you said before, you decide when to be the master and when to be the student. Right now, we're a student learning from Andrew about AI, this language model. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and there's other times, and that's fine. That's omnipresence. That's being a part of Raw. And
Yeah.
so like, thank you for pointing that out, but like, that is real. And I wanted to say that before I go is like, people get out there, because that's a lot of it, do your meditations, and again, meditation is whatever that is for you. It can be kind of active, intentional thought, but to close this up, do a lot of introspection. And you know what, while you're doing it, think about ethics and AI and how that's going to be integrated into wherever you're at in your life, whether you're watching this in, 2 years from now, but you're 14 years old, or, you know what I mean? Or you're watching this 5 years from now and you're, whatever, you're 25 years old, wherever you're at. But like, just know that there's validity in this information and kind of what I would say a program. And once you start down this path, it's almost like you just can't, I don't know about you, man, but it's like an addiction. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
it's blissful. I love it. So this is
same.
why we are doing it. We have the call. It's a soul mission. We have to feel that call, because right now it's not like that we are making any money out of it. It's quite the opposite. It costs us like time to do it, but it's our call to do it. And I know that down the road it will bring us much more than money, because a trap is the money mindset. I mean, yes, we need money, but when you just focus to make money, my soul is not aligned with that mindset alone. Money is by itself is not does not motivate me enough to do something that I'm not aligned with. So
no, it's what I can do with it. Why it is a concept of something that I have to, have at this moment, in my lifetime, and maybe that'll change, but it's because I want to do other things with it. I don't want to take any of it with me and put it in a bank. It'll just get spent right away, just on another project or building or school, like that's the thing, man. You start learning about these bliss things that you were talking about being in these states of bliss. And I started really diving into Dan Winter, and he is a brilliant mind on YouTube. If anybody wants to, get into that, maybe we'll send a link here, Vince, on some of that stuff, because it is great information, so that people can dive into that. But he talks about these states of bliss and like this growth, and not everything's always blissful. People, like, there's suffering too. We're not, you know what I mean? That's the duality. That's the polarization. So, we're not sitting over here saying that like we got the keys to life, it's all bliss and grace, and that's it, But
no, but again, the goal is to be also able to integrate the dark. We spoke about that in the last podcast.
You have to harmonize with it. That's the thing. You learn to harmonize with it and blend with that part of your life and your spark. So
yes. Something that comes to on a final note, like God created created us, created this creation. So AI at the end of the day is part of God's creation.
Yeah. So. Amen. Well, and and that's and on a final note to this, that's the beautiful thing about like AI and these language models is like, even if you're talking to Vince on this thing or your understanding of God, like you can put in God and it'll give you a vast historical context of what that is. You know what I mean? And you can even just start diving in there. So like, but it's going to give you a preference of like kind of spirituality differences, you know, all these, you know, Yahweh, and people talk about the God source, right? As source. So like, again, whatever that version is to you, right? And if you don't even really believe in God, if you want to tie God to just like consciousness, just whatever that is for you, because everybody at some level can say there's consciousness, right? There's an individuality of consciousness floating around in perspectives, a reflection, if you say. So, you know, I would just say that in the end is, you know, these are concepts that we live by, and we hope that people see this and that they resonate with it and that they actually start to institute it in their life, because there is tangible things that start to happen in the synchronicities and the way that the universe talks back to you. And when you can start discerning it a little bit better and even getting a little bit more experience discerning it, like that's when things really, really start to kind of like evolve. You know what I mean? And to me, like you said earlier, your DNA may have potentially be evolving, and we can dive into that, everything else later, and even how AI may integrate with genetics somehow. Like, I don't know, like these are all topics that will be talked about on the Raw podcast. But please, people, just know when you see this and you see, you know, maybe Andrew had to leave for a minute and it's not in a setting that's in a studio in New York. Well, that's because we're not going to be found in a studio in New York all the time, you know, ever. So, but anyways, so Vince, thanks for coming on, man. You know, just blessed to always like get your perspective no matter what it is, because you said all the things, and really using Andrew's language model and even just looking at AI, just so you know, I'm only like 2 weeks ahead of you, bro. That's it. You do a little bit of reading and you'll be, you know what I'm saying? That's it. You'll be right there. And people need to look at it like that too. You know, you don't have to be an expert to start like clicking on the links and looking at the videos and the information, you know? So, but that's the beautiful thing about it. So again, thank you, my friend, for...
Thank you, Jonathan, for hosting this podcast, again, for taking the lead on this project. I firmly believe that the 300 Raw podcast, it is my knowing that it is important work that we're doing right now to facilitate this ascension process with those who will find this information, to simplify or to break down and give our perspective. So people, you take what resonates, and if you find some light that you can apply in your life, then it fills me with joy, because this is the whole purpose of this.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. That has been the whole purpose, and will continue to almost always be the purpose, you know, because just like there are people like Andrew understand things at a little bit different speed right now, that doesn't mean you're not going to understand that at some level. So don't don't be so fearful of the information and then integrating it, you know, and contacting us, contact the Sun Tribe, whatever, you know, like that's a part of it. It's an omnipresence. So
because the goal of the Sun Tribe, based on my goal with Trust, to build a tribe of leaders of about 300 people to really anchor that new herd. So right now we are maybe 10 people. So more to come for the Sun Tribe. We're still in our early stage, but things will get exponential. Like part of Vortex, this is where you have to put so much effort, and after when it get exponential. So
well, I'm gonna leave this off today for me, so thank you. But I will say, from this moment in time, I can go ahead and record this, and it can you know, maybe I'll laugh at it later, or somebody will, but like, I'm starting what they call the Neo mission right now, that let's debate anybody on the ethics of AI, like in the future, you know what I mean? And you hopefully you come to the table with a clean track record, you know what I mean? Kind of mentality. So be prepared, because I think as things evolve, I just see that there'll be some of those conversations being had, you know, because like you said, that's a big part of this. And spirituality ties into it. And I know it's a lot of different concepts for people to kind of understand, but the Raw podcast will give you an opportunity to at least like take bits and pieces, like you said, and see what resonates. And I hope this does help people. And I hope at least helps people start the conversation of, hey, I haven't really put much thought into ethics and AI. I mean, shit, I hadn't until 14 days ago. You know what I mean? So like, it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey. You know what I mean? Just, it's okay to have that emotion, express it, and it's okay to stand in your sovereignty and stand with a language of love, you know, and understanding for, and we need to be compassionate when people come back too, you know, if they're people that like are really, you know, just kind of lost, but they're really, really trying to find themselves, you know, that's what I've learned is, you know, compassion is a big part of that bliss process, you know, and we need to be compassionate with that. And, you know, the same thing is going to be with AI. So if somebody doesn't understand it, but if they come to you later and they want to understand it a little bit better, just, you know, tell them where your perspective is. That's really all it is. You know, their perspective is going to be different. So thanks, Vince. I appreciate your time, man. I will talk to you later, and bless everybody. Thank you, audience. Thank you for your time.
Together we rise, synchronized we thrive, always.
All right, man. Later.